to the Crowds Line College Football Show.
Welcome to the Crowds Line College Football Show with Lou Holtz and Mark May. I'm Kevin Trimble, your moderator. And gentlemen, we're week 13, and this is not week 13, this is rivalry week. We have Thanksgiving on Thursday, family comes in, and as Coach we talked about, Thanksgiving is about, well, we're going to be thankful, but let's eat some turkey and watch some football. But we are in rivalry week, and with rivalry week, as you know, the stakes are a lot higher, one for bragging rights. But right now, there are also some conference championships that are going to be determined. Because as of right now, we talk about Power 5. The ACC has their two teams, they're locked in. Clemson is now playing Coastal champion Pitt on December 1st. And then the SEC, as we know, is Georgia is going to play Alabama on December 1st in the SEC championship game. But don't forget, you got the Big 10, the Big 12, Pac-12, AAC. All those are up for grabs. And what happens this weekend, what happens on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, has a lot to do with who's going to win those conference championships, but more importantly, who's going to play for that national championship. And it still comes down to this. We talk about national championship implications, bowl implications, but there's also, some teams that, they're not going to a bowl. Maybe this is a springboard to that next season to get a little more momentum going. But we talk about stakes are high. We raise the stakes here at the Crowds Line. So this week's Rivalry Week College Football Show contest it's going to be combining both prize pools. So the first prize, whoever picks the most games, accurate scores with the spread, is going to get a $500 Amazon gift card. So be prepared. Get on your phone, get on your app, get on your computer, and get ready to pick these games. And with that said, gentlemen, let's talk about Week 12. We had 10 games in Week 12, and the first one was right here in Orlando, primetime Cincinnati at UCF. We thought it was going to be, you know what, UCF's finally going to get tested. Cincinnati was ranked, UCF was number 12, and 38-13. Mark, you saw that.
But you look at this game, and it was a close game if you just look at the statistics. If you look at the numbers, it's only 19 yards separating both of these teams, but the key was UCF was able to put the ball in the end zone. Mackenzie Milton, again, he only completed 13 passes in this game, but for 3 touchdowns, Coach. But he gave them a touchdown in their end zone. That was the only reason why they got 13 points. This game shouldn't have been close. It should have been a blowout. But Mackenzie Milton is the real deal. Each and every week, he impresses me more and more. They don't have to blow teams away. They just have to continue to win, and they've won 23 in a row.
Because I live in the state of Florida and city of Orlando, I'm very well aware of UCF, and I've been high on them the entire year. They have a great running back. He's not very big. They're very fast. Mackenzie Milton's tremendous. They have outstanding receivers and an excellent offensive line. They're a complete football team, Mark. And you look at the fact that they beat Auburn last year, and then they come back, they beat Pitt 45-14, and Pitt's a very good football team, won the ACC. So I don't think UCF gets the credit they truly deserve. If I was coaching, I would not want to play UCF.
Well, I tell you, nobody else wants to play is the Panthers from the University of Pittsburgh. They had to win one of 2 games against either Wake Forest or Miami to be the ACC Coastal Division champion. And guess what? They just took care of business. 34-13, they took it to them. Mr. Hall of Famer from Pitt, Mark May, tell us about that big game.
Well, Kenny Pickett, the quarterback, was terrific, 23-30 in the game, but I thought it was dominating in the second half where they outscored Wake 28-3. They held the ball for almost 40 minutes in this football game. Pat Narduzzi and his staff did a terrific job. But, Coach, I've got to tell you, ever since I gave them that pep talk, they lost to Notre Dame 19-14. They won 4 games in a row, and now they're ACC Coastal Division champions.
Did you give that pep talk before they lost to North Carolina 39-38, or before they lost to Penn State 51-6, or before they lost to UCF 45-14? But I will say this. That was a great win for Pitt because Wake Forest had to either beat Pitt or Duke at Duke in order to be bowl eligible. So I knew that they got the very best shot from Wake Forest. But congratulations to Pitt. It was a very methodical win, and I love their young quarterback. He is a real competitor. He reminds me a lot of Mackenzie Milton of UCF. He just makes plays, and he's a great leader.
We talked about the Pitt Panthers and the roar of the crowd that from all the way from Pittsburgh was probably heard in Stillwater. And here's why. Because the number 9 West Virginia Mountaineers went down there and played Oklahoma State. And you know what? Win that game, and then win your next game, win the next 2, and you might even be in the playoff hunt. But it didn't happen. 45-41. Taylor Cornelius and the Oklahoma State Cowboys, they got it done. Came from behind, beat the Mountaineers. Mark, talk to us about that, please.
West Virginia was cruising in this game. At halftime, they were up by 17 points, so they should have just cruised in the second half. But for some reason, their defense let them down. But Taylor Cornelius, as you said, had a terrific game. 5 touchdown passes. But here's the key. He rushed the ball for over 100 yards and another touchdown in this game. And threw the winning touchdown pass with 42 seconds left to go in the game. They came roaring back. The mullet got it done. It was a great victory for Oklahoma State.
When you go on the road, Mark, the one thing you need to pack is your discipline and your defense, and they didn't bring their defense. What's really amazing about Oklahoma State, try this. How they lose to Texas Tech, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Baylor, yet beat West Virginia, Texas, and Boise State. You talk about a team up and down, but at home, they played a great game, but it's really a shame that the defense didn't show up, particularly the second half.
Well, we have a tough one that went out there in Oregon, because Herm Edwards' Arizona State Sun Devils came in and they win this game. They are in the hunt for the Pac-12 South title. But, Coach, as we talked about earlier, Arizona State can't win on the road. Oregon took care of business, 31-29. So, you know what? Justin Herbert did what he had to do, but Herm Edwards and his guys got just close enough and couldn't close the deal. Mark, you know Herm Edwards. Talk to us about this.
Well, the key to this football game, they got behind early in this football game. They had to battle back. But the good thing about it for Arizona State, they did battle back in the second half. They outscored the Ducks 16-3, made a run at it. The problem was red zone operation for the offense for Arizona State. They didn't get things done. They had 3 trips in the red zone, came away with 9 points, 3 field goals. When you're on the road and you're playing against an opponent and you got to have a big win, you got to score touchdowns. You can't score field goals. They made a terrific run at this game and made it a close game at the end, but they just didn't get it done. And for Herm Edwards and this football team, it's been a tough year on the road. They're 1-4 on the road, but they've been all close victories by 7 points or less. So at least they're building something and they're going to a bowl this year.
Boy, that's the type of conference I want to coach in. You got 3 conference losses and you still have a chance to win the championship. That's unbelievable. It was a great effort by Arizona State. Oregon's a different football team at home. It's a great win for them, make no mistake about it. But now, Arizona State isn't going to win the conference championship. However, they can keep their arch rival Arizona from going to a bowl next week. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show.
Now, those first-year head coaches, they're going to go at it. But this next game, our most experienced coach, Lou Holtz, on Twitter this week, he put Notre Dame-Syracuse won't be close. Syracuse is overrated, Notre Dame's underrated. Coach, guess what? Once again, you're correct. 36-3. It was not close, and, you know, Eric Dungy couldn't make it through the game. He's out. They took care of business, and they're on this roll. Then we'll talk about USC later, but Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium with the pinstripes took care of business over the Orangemen. Mark, you watch this.
I'll tell you what, Eric Dungy got knocked out of this game early in the first quarter. Tommy DeVito was stepped in the game, and he wasn't ready for this game. He got sacked 6 times, threw 2 interceptions. That was the key. When you lose your starting quarterback early in the first quarter, he is your leader. He's your bell cow. Once he was out of the game was over. He and Book came back and played solid. But, Coach, those jerseys that they were wearing, if they're throwbacks, throw them back because they were ugly.
I agree with you, Mark. I'm one of these old-fashioned people who believe you have a uniform, you wear it each and every week, that when people see on TV or a picture, they know immediately that is Notre Dame, Penn State, whoever else it may be. That's just me. But Penn State, as I said, and I didn't think Dungy would finish the game, and I said, I hope I'm wrong. And the reason I felt that, for the last 3 years, he's missed the last 3 games due to injury. Notre Dame is an outstanding football team. Their defensive line is in the same comparison. I think you can put it with Clemson, with Alabama. Matter of fact, I think now wait, don't interrupt me, Mark, particularly when you don't know what you're talking about. Here's why I say that. They are a complete football team in every single area, and I think that they're very vastly underrated. Whereas Syracuse, 9 conference wins, Mark, against Wagner. Connecticut 1-10 and a Mid-American Conference team. They lost to the 2 teams that had a winning record in the ACC. Their combined record of the wins in the ACC was something like 6 wins and 27 losses. So I really wasn't sold on Stanford, and I think the game justified that. Let me say Syracuse. I'll be okay. You have to understand, Mark, I'm not real sharp.
No,
well,
sure.
Gentlemen, that is our Week 12 college football show contest. And that was 5 games. And of those 5 games, Coach, you picked 3 winners. Mark, you picked 1, 2 winners. So that's what you have it, because I want to talk about our Week 12 Rapid 5 contest. First game, Duke goes down to Clemson. Duke was, like we said, David Cutcliffe was 7-3 at the time. That's a great season for them. They're throwing the ball, playing well. And oh, by the way, it's 14-6 at halftime. But Trevor Lawrence saw what he does. The freshman quarterback, Travis Etienne, comes in running the ball. But maybe who doesn't get a lot of credit is Trevor Lawrence has pretty much been untouched for about the last 6 games. That offensive line takes care of him. They found a way to just steamroll it on through 35-6. Clemson's on a roll. Mark.
If you look at this game, Clemson was really sleepwalking in the first half. You look at the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, 0 for 7 on 3rd down. Travis Etienne, the running back, only had 4 yards in the first half. They just basically had one of those games where it was like, oh, it's Duke, we'll roll our helmets out. I guarantee you that there's some paint peeling off the walls of Dabo Swinney at halftime, because they turned it around the second half, got it done. And again, they've won their 6th consecutive game by 20 points or more. This is why they're a quality football team, Coach.
It really wasn't much of a contest. You know, I really am impressed with Daniel Jones, the quarterback for Duke. He had such an outstanding game the week before, and Clemson was really ready for it. It's just hard to beat Clemson at Clemson. Trust me. They called Death Valley for a reason, and it was a great win for Clemson. Now, Duke will get to entertain Wake Forest in the last home game.
Well, Coach, also, Mike, you mentioned those lovely locker rooms at Clemson. I'm sure that was a great halftime speech for David Cutcliffe. But the Arizona Wildcats go to Pullman, Washington to play Washington State. And you think about Gardner Minshew and the mustache. Arizona's coming in. They got a lot of momentum. Khalil Tate's throwing the ball. Guess what? 7 touchdowns. It was 69-28. Washington State took care of business, scored 34 points in the second quarter. This was not near close. Mark.
It was a terrible game by Arizona. They weren't ready to play this game. I think Kevin Sumlin's pregame speech must have been, defense is optional, guys, because they didn't play any defense in this game. 7 touchdown passes by Gardner Minshew. It was over. This is a typical Mike Leach game. They're up by almost 30 points in the fourth quarter, and, Coach, he's still throwing the football in the air. They scored 14 points by passing in the fourth quarter to pile it on. That's Mike Leach. No class, just piles it on teams when he can. He shouldn't do this because he's going to catch up to him sometime during his career, and it always has. When the opposition's had a chance to do it to him, they've done it to him. So the next time when they play a good team, watch out.
You always pick on the coach. It is Arizona's job to hold the score down. That's not Washington State's job. Either recruit better or coach better. It was 55-14 at halftime. They poured it on them in the first half. They only scored 14 points in the second half. Arizona now has to beat their arch rival to become bowl eligible. So we'll see what happens. But Washington State's a different football team at home, Mark, and they really are great. But I wonder how good they've been had Gardner Minshew not transferred from East Carolina to be their quarterback, because they didn't have a quarterback prospect until he transferred from East Carolina. He couldn't win at East Carolina. Let's give Mike Leach a lot of credit, because Minshew's having a great year.
He was going to go to Alabama when he was going to transfer. You know what the speech Mike Leach gave him? You can go to Alabama and be a backup, or you can come to Washington State and lead the nation in passing. I think he made the right decision.
How did that work out for him? Worked out for both teams.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Nick Saban would have let him keep that mustache. But we'll talk about them in the Apple Cup later. But I will tell you, Iowa State, we call them the Giant Killers, went down there to Austin and played Texas. And remember, Brock Purdy, he's done some damage. Did it against West Virginia this year, the Iowa State freshman quarterback. So what did Texas do? They just tackled the guy. And they tackled this guy a lot. They smothered him. They took care of business. Texas 24-10. And, oh, by the way, they got to win one more game, and they beat Kansas. They're in the Big 12 championship game at the end of the season. Mark, talk to us about this one.
This is probably the most complete game Texas has played on both sides of the ball. They lost their quarterback, Sam Ehlinger, in this game. Shane Buechele came in and still played very well. When Ehlinger went out, he had a touchdown run and a touchdown pass, but they've got to keep him healthy if they want to make a run at this. And here's the other thing. When you look at their defense, they were outstanding. 168 total yards, just 65 on the ground, Coach. Their defense stuffed the run of Iowa State, put them in a box. And this is the way that you thought Texas would play throughout the year. But this team just can't have the consistency, or they haven't had the consistency the entire season. But if they play like this against Kansas, they'll be playing in the Big 12 championship game.
Well, Shane Buechele's had a lot of experience. You know, 2 years ago, he was a starter and really performed very, very well. Erlinger's done an outstanding job. But I agree with you, Mark, that they played a complete football game. And, you know, the old saying, you win championships with defense, you sell tickets with offense. But with whoever has a great defense, you look at West Virginia, you look at Oklahoma, they're not a great defense. Texas defense is better among those three teams, but not great on a consistent basis. I agree with in that respect, Mark.
Well,
That's
defense
unusual,
optional. Defense, coach, defense optional in the Big 12 will be said, but I think defense was also optional in College Park, Maryland this weekend. I know this was a battle of emotions. You see what Maryland's gone through this year. Ohio State's gone through some of their own emotions. You could see the stress on some of the people's face on the sideline. A lot of people said, oh, it's going to be a blowout. 52-51, Ohio State, 2 overtimes. Mark.
Ohio State got lucky in this one. They go for a 2-point conversion. Maryland did and didn't get into the end. I like what Matt Canada did. He should be their head coach. Take the intern tag off of him. He's done a terrific job under the circumstances at Maryland. Anthony McFarland did a terrific job running the ball. He had 231 yards in the first half against the Buckeye defense. The most yards Urban Meyer's ever given up on the ground with any opponent, no matter where he's coached in the first half. And they almost pulled it off. They rushed for well over 300 yards in this football game. Something's wrong with this Ohio State defense, coach. They don't control their gaps. They don't contain on the outside. They don't force the edge, and they don't tackle well. And I said it from week 1 against Oregon State. It's got to be their Achilles heels, and it's got to catch up to them sooner than later, and it's going to be sooner against Michigan when they play Michigan. But that's the problem with the Buckeyes. They can't stop anybody running the football.
A blind man could see that they're poor on defense, Mark. The thing that worries me about Ohio State is, number one, their defense. You say they don't stay shoulder squared. Fundamentally, they don't play the gaps. They don't tackle particularly well. They play predominantly man-free coverage, and they have been giving up an awful lot of points and yards this year. But what also scares me about Ohio State's their offensive line. How many times have they had 3rd and 1 this year and could not make it? In overtime, they have 4th and 1, or actually 3rd and 1 didn't make it. On 4th and 1, they threw the ball. The offensive line is not able to control the line of scrimmage. Now, if you can't play good defense and you can't run the football on a consistent basis with 2 great backs like Dobner and Weaver, you got real problems. But let's give Urban Meyer an awful lot of credit. He found a way to win. And the fact that they went for 2, I want to win for 2 because you're dominating the game. You're better on offense than Ohio State is. You have a better chance to stop them than they do you. But Ohio State made a mistake when they put the guy in the flat. 2 guys ran for the guy in the flat. They left the inside receiver wide open. The quarterback just missed him. He was open. Could have been a win. And as far as naming him the head football coach, he's done a tremendous job. He did not do a very good job last year at LSU. He was fired as offensive coordinator. Goes to Maryland's the offensive coordinator. Then when the coaching carousel happened, he ended up the head coach, and he's done a good job. Maybe he's not a great offensive coordinator. Maybe he's a great head coach.
Well, we're going to talk about those teams later on, but probably the oldest rivalry in America, Yale and, as Mark said, Harvard. Yale-Harvard play in the shadow of the Green Monster in Fenway Park, and Harvard just took care of business, 45-27, probably the highest scoring game they've had in years. Mark, both y'all picked Harvard.
Could have been a bigger game, but Devin Darlington, the running back, gave the 1-finger salute and had a touchdown called back. Not a classic thing to do if you're a Harvard man. But the thing is, Tom Stewart, the quarterback, had a terrific day, throwing for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns to just 1 interception. And Harvard rolled in this game early, and it was over before halftime, in my opinion.
Oh, no. You didn't watch the whole. You didn't watch the whole game. I watched the game, Mark, and I want to tell you, this was really an entertaining game. And number one, it was sold out in Fenway Park. And the enthusiasm of the Yale and the Harvard fans was tremendous. But Yale had the lead at something like 24-23 in the 3rd quarter. Then Harvard dominated. And I agree with you. Stewart did an outstanding job. But I was also impressed with the quarterback from Yale. He could throw the ball equally as well. But it's a shame Stewart got hurt at the end of the game. And it was his last game, so it won't be a factor.
Well, for clarification, upon further review, the camera and video evidence has proven that the young man was saying we're number 1. Now, that's our Week 12 Rapid 5 review. And it's going to get us ready for this Week 13 rivalry week. And as I said before, we're upping the stakes because the stakes are high during rivalry week. And you know what? We got to get a little bit of motivation. So we're going to come right back with a little visit to the doctor. So stay with us. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Dr. Lou Holtz.
Well, Dr. Lou is going to act like Coach Lou today. And what I wish to do, I wish to talk to all the teams in the locker room that are involved in a bitter rivalry game. And I mean this sincerely. Nothing in this world you have done in the past, even though you're young, is going to have as great an impact on people as this game will. We went through winter program. We went through spring practice. We went through summer workouts, two-a-days. We went through 11 football games. All comes down to this. Whatever's happened in the past is of no consequences whatsoever. The one-loss record doesn't mean a thing. Whether you're a favorite underdog means absolutely nothing. But let me tell you this. Gentlemen, you have a chance to be significant. And when you're significant is when you have a positive effect on a lot of other people. Your performance in this game today is going to determine the attitude of so many of our fans on how you react to challenges, how you respond, how enthusiastic you are about life. It's a fact, but it's not necessarily fair. You've been well trained. You know what to do, how to do it. Don't let yourself down. Don't let your teammates down. But find a way to win. You and I both know, if you want to win, you'll find a way to win. If you don't have a desire to win, you'll find excuses. And remember this. Excuses come out of losing locker rooms, and we aren't losers. I want you to go out there, and I want you to beat them as bad as you possibly can. Put as many points on the board as possible. I was at Ohio State. We're playing Michigan, our arch rival, the chance to go to the Rose Bowl and play for a national championship. We scored late in the game, went for two, made it, and beat Michigan 50-14. And the fans said, "Why'd you go for three?" And Woody Hayes, or "Why'd you go for two?" Woody Hayes said they wouldn't let me go for three. That was his mentality. I want to beat them as bad as possible. And then there was a time, Pepper Rogers, the coaches Kansas, and there was a guy by the name of Dan Devine at Missouri, big rival. Devine's beating him real bad in the fourth quarter. Pepper Rogers is so embarrassed. He put up the peace sign in the fourth quarter, and he said Dan Devine returned half of the peace sign. See, that is a mentality you have to have. Now, I want to tell you, you can fool me. You can fool the people on TV. You can fool the official. You can fool your teammates. You can't fool yourself. You put your head on that pillow tonight, you and you alone know whether you did everything you could to make sure you win this game. Because I'm going to tell you something, gentlemen. You'll remember this game the rest of your life. The last thing, 60 minutes to play, and a lifetime to remember. Go sick 'em.
Well, if you're not fired up from Dr. Lou's talk right there, there's something wrong with you. But I'll tell you what we got coming right now. We have the Rivalry contest. We're just going to call it one big contest. We're going to look at 10 games, and there's $500 for first prize, and it goes all the way from there. But let's start off. Oklahoma at West Virginia. So you got number 6 Oklahoma. It's the 11th time they've played against these Mountaineers. And, you know, Oklahoma's 10-1. Mountaineers are 8-2 now. They're playing for different things. They're both playing for the chance to play in the Big 12 Conference Championship, or the extra game as it's called. But for Oklahoma, if they can keep winning, some other people have to lose. They have a chance in the college football playoff, though it's a slim chance. For the Mountaineers, they can play spoiler, they can go to a New Year's Six bowl game, and they can win championship, because that's what we do. We play to win championships. All of us, if you're playing the game, that's what we do. But you look at the two teams, how they're going to go about it. Oklahoma, as we know, they can score points. Kyler Murray he is as good as any quarterback in the country right now. Problem is, he doesn't have a defense to back it up. Will Greer, about the same thing, little bit better defense, but as we saw with their defense against Oklahoma State, and Mark, you saw it, Taylor Cornelius had over 100 yards rushing. So Mountaineers got to account for that guy with the ball as a runner as much as they do as a passer. How's this going to go? Because, Mark, I know you're familiar with Mountaineer Field and how hospitable the West Virginia fans will be to the visiting team. What do you think about this game up there in Morgantown, Mark?
Morgantown's always a tough place to play no matter who the opponent is. But if you look at this Oklahoma game, everybody talks about their quarterback in Kyler Murray, as they well should, because he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. But it's the running attack and the offensive line of Oklahoma that's going to get it done. They're 7th in the nation, 261 yards per game. But here's the key. Trey Sermon goes down last week, so who do you put in? You put in Kennedy Brooks. He rushes for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. The game's going to come down to the physicality of the offensive line, protecting Kyler Murray and running the football. Oklahoma wins this game 52-38.
Well, I disagree with you. Not with anything you said. Everything you said is accurate. It's going to come down to defense, Mark. Who's going to get a stop at one time or another? Both teams are outstanding on offense. Both have great quarterbacks, good receivers, but it's the defense. I think that Oklahoma has got to shore up that defense. They're too good on offense. Going into Morgantown, Oklahoma is a little bit more difficult to beat on the road than at home, but I look for Oklahoma to prevail. 38-35, I do believe Oklahoma will get 1 or 2 big stops, which will turn the game around.
Well, let's see if that 12th man of Mountaineer Field, and that's a 12th man in Mossy Oak, can make a difference to support the Mountaineers. But our next game is the 111th version of the Apple Cup. And, Coach, you called this a couple weeks back. His first game was in 1900, but Washington at Washington State, and it's for the Pac-12 North title. Now, much like we said Oklahoma, West Virginia, Washington State, they still got an outside chance at the college football playoff, whereas Washington, with 3 losses, they don't. But this is a tale of 2 teams. Washington's won the last 5, and you've got a top 10 Washington State team with Gardner Minshew, as we said, throwing the ball, but they're also playing a little bit of defense. Now, Washington plays a little defense, but they also have the senior quarterback. They have Myles Gaskin, the running back. So we're going to see how this is going to go. I think it's a lot closer than anybody thinks. Washington State's favored by 3 right now. This could be an overtime winning on 1 point. Mark, what do you think about this one?
The balance of Washington's going to get this done with Myles Gaskin running the ball. You've got Jake Browning that's a quarterback. He's got the experience. He's been in a ton of ball games. I think you look at Gardner Minshew. Yeah, he threw for a lot of touchdown passes last week, but here's the key of this football game. Chris Peterson has never lost to Washington State, and he's never lost to Mike Leach. He's going to keep it going. Washington will win at Washington State, and there go their playoff dreams. There goes the Heisman dreams for Gardner Minshew, 37-26.
Obviously, you're not willing to bet on that, but as you can say it on TV, Mark, Washington will not win this football game. Washington does not play well enough in the big football game. They play far too conservative. Yes, they have a good defense, and it is a fact that Cal did hold Washington State to only 19 points. But Washington State on the road is not a particularly great offensive football team. At home, they're a completely different team. I look for Washington State to win this game 41-27. I think they will beat them by 2 touchdowns. What's happened in the past doesn't have a thing to do with this game. I don't care how many times Coach Peterson has beaten Coach Leach. It's not going to happen this time.
They beat them 41-14 last year. They know how to pound Washington State. It's in their back pocket.
I want to tell you, Mark, but that's a different team. And Washington is not a great offensive football team. I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, trust me when I tell you this. Washington State is for real. Their defense is much better than they get credit for it.
Well, Coach, I think they're going to win too, and that may not be the last time we hear of them. But our next game is, it's probably the ugliest rivalry in all of college football, and I don't care what you say. Auburn at Alabama. I've lived in Alabama. Trust me, it's real. It is very real. And it's the first time, it's a 24.5-point spread in Alabama's favor. This Iron Bowl is the 83rd meeting going back to 1893. And I don't have to tell any college football fan out there, people live and breathe Auburn, Alabama football. You show up and the boxes are still in the front yard. You try to get the moving van in, and one neighbor comes over and says, "Who's your team?" And the other one says, "Who's your team?" And they're going to friend you or befriend you all because of who you're picking. And I'm going to tell you right now, Alabama, I think a lot of people are picking Alabama, even if they did win to Auburn. Tua Tagovailoa, we talked about that. He's kind of banged up right now. Jalen Hurts was banged up as well. But the defense is playing tough for Alabama. Auburn on the other side, Gus Malzahn, offensive genius. You know what? He's not calling his plays, as you said, Coach, but his offense isn't doing anything. They can't run the ball, and their defense is just okay. I think maybe they've been down in Charleston, South Carolina this week, going on a film study with the Citadel to at least get through the first half. We'll see how that goes. Mark, talk to us about the Iron Bowl.
It's not going to be a close one. Alabama's not playing on the Plains this year. Auburn's got to play at Alabama. Alabama's tough at home. You talked about two at the quarterback position. Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver, is one of the best in the nation. They can run the ball extremely well. Their defense is third in scoring in the country and third in red zone defense. I like the way that Alabama's playing on both sides of the ball. Don't worry about last week against the Citadel. It was 10-10 at half. Alabama came out the second half and put the pedal to the metal. That's what they can do because they can do it on both sides of the football. I like Alabama in this game. Big, Coach, 51-20.
I think that Alabama is an outstanding football team, obviously. But remember this, Auburn beat them last year. And because of that, I think Saban's really going to try to run the score up. I tried to look for where Auburn had an advantage. I had to go all the way down to net punting. They have a better punter than Alabama does, and I'm not sure the punter from Alabama is even going to earn a letter. He doesn't have to kick the ball very often. I really believe that Gus Malzahn is an offensive genius. But he sort of turned the play calling over to other people. I hope he gets involved, because I'll promise you, if he gets involved and he calls the play, he'll make this game interesting. By interesting, I mean it'll hold it to Alabama 46, Auburn 14.
Well, that's going to be a little, probably, I don't know, 24-point spread. Mark, I think I'm going to take Alabama and the points. I mean, that's going to be unbelievable. But Michigan, Ohio State is, think about it, the Big Ten East Championship once again. They're both, Michigan is 8-0 in conference. Ohio State 7-1 in conference. Tale of two teams right now. One started off slow and is quickly rising. The other one started off high and is slowly kind of, are they petering out or are they leveling off? This is 114th meeting, goes back to 1897, but Ohio State has won 6 straight. You heard that. Jim Harbaugh hadn't beat Urban Meyer. He hadn't beat Ohio State, and that's what he was hired to do. Is this the year? One's got some pretty good defense and an okay offense. The other one's got a pretty good offense and no defense. Mark, what do you think about this game in Columbus for pretty much all the marbles?
It's all going to come down to Don Brown and his defense, a defensive coordinator for Michigan. If he can stop the running attack, J.K. Dobbins last week rushed for over 200 yards. But the problem is, does he have anything left in the tank? Because he had 38 touches in that game against Maryland. And their defense on the other side of the ball for Ohio State, they can't stop the running game. So if I'm Michigan, I'm pounding the ball with Karan Higdon right up the middle for 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, I use a play-action pass with Shea Patterson. And Shea Patterson will be able to run the ball effectively on this defense. I got Michigan winning big, Coach, 41-27 at the Shoe.
Oh, that doesn't happen at the Shoe, Mark. I remember we beat them 50-14 when the situation was very similar. Ohio State gets ready for this football game, but more importantly, Mark, Ohio State players know they can beat Michigan. Nobody on Michigan's team ever has beaten Ohio State. And to come down there and play at Ohio State, remember 2 years ago, they both were very, very good, and Ohio State prevailed in that game, very committedly fought. I think Ohio State defense has to show up, but they haven't done it. I know Dobbins rushed for 200 yards, but on 38 attempts, Mark. On 3rd and 1, offensive line Ohio State I don't think is very impressive in running the football. But I got to give credit to Dwayne Haskins. Mark, he's had an incredible year. He should definitely be in the Heisman candidate. I mean, he's made some great throws. He's put that Ohio State football team on his back time after time when they could do nothing else on defense, etc. I look for Michigan to prevail 28-27, but I would not be surprised if Urban Meyer doesn't find a way to win it. He has an excellent staff, so does Jim Harbaugh. It's just going to be a great game. I can hardly wait to see it. It will be a very physical game.
Coach, there's one guy on the Michigan team that has beaten Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, yeah, but he also beat me, too, but that doesn't make him great. He threw a fade on us on 3rd and 10 to beat me when I was at Notre Dame. But I think it having been part of the game, I can tell you the anxiety of the fans, the enthusiasm. You go in that stadium, there's just an electricity that favors Ohio State in this game. As you said, Ohio State won 6 in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it 7, but Michigan is the better team right now. And I love what Shane Patterson's doing. When they run Shane Patterson, they're a different football team. This is a different football team than opened up the season. Now, their offensive line is getting much better at Michigan.
Yep.
Well, if Michigan can break the streak, Mark, I think you'll agree Don Brown should get the attaboy for that win because, you know, Devin Bush and if Chase Winovich is healthy, they're going to need those guys because Dwayne Haskins doesn't have any help, but I'm going to tell you right now, he is the real deal. You watch some of the throws he made against Maryland, almost blindfolded, through a window, somebody caught it. That guy can play, but I think Don Brown's got a plan for old Mr. Haskins. We're going to see how that goes. But our fifth game in our Rivalry Week college football show contest is Notre Dame at USC. And it's number 3, 11-0 Notre Dame. And it's the Irish going out to play the men of Troy out there in the Coliseum. It's a Saturday night game. It's going to be on TV. It's the 87th meeting going back to 1926. And you know what? Notre Dame has a path to the playoff, and it goes through USC. USC, on the other hand, they're having a tough year. They got a 17-year-old quarterback in JT Daniels. You know what? He's got a good mustache like Minshew. Might be fake. But the key is Clay Helton playing for his job? You've got that talk out there. They are having a tough year, and here come the Irish. And they were thinking about one thing and one thing only. Mark.
I like the Irish in this game. The reason why is because they're just a better football team with better players at every position, particularly the quarterback position with Ian Book. For Notre Dame, they're a much different football team. We all know that. And if you look at JT Daniels and all the young players and all the banged-up players for USC, they've lost 4 out of the last 5 games. They don't stand a chance in this game. I think the score is not even going to be close in this game, Coach. I got Notre Dame winning 37-13.
I think Notre Dame, as we talked about, is a very good football team. In this rivalry, it's unusual for both teams not to be in the top 10. That's what really makes it a great rivalry. When you talk about a bit of rivalry, this is a one rivalry where the teams are 2,000 miles apart. But it goes back to 1926 when they first played the football game. You look at USC, they've lost so many in a row, but they got beat by UCLA last week. Yeah. UCLA was on the way to the worst season they've had in years, and they beat Southern Cal. Now, if Southern Cal really was a good football team, they would have found a way to win. I don't believe they have any chance whatsoever. Clay Helton will probably keep his job, but the fact is Notre Dame prevails 41-14 only because he called the dogs off. Coach Kelly didn't want to run it up, but they will win 41-14.
Well, there you have the first half of our Rivalry Week contest. Like I said, we are going all in. We're raising the stakes, and the first place winner next week is $500. So stay with us, and we're going to be right back with numbers 6 through 10. Now, when you're done filling out your winners for the contest for our first 5 games on your app right now, let's talk about our number 6 game. Now, we had a couple choices here. We said, hey, we could do Clemson, South Carolina, but oh, that's going to be a blowout. We could do, Florida, Florida State. Who knows how that's going to go. Or, let's pick one that everybody thinks is a blowout, but you never know. We got number 17, Kentucky Wildcats are playing in the Governor's Cup at Louisville. Now, this game, Kentucky won a couple years ago. Kentucky won a couple years ago as a 27-point underdog. Well, right now, Kentucky's favored by 17. Kentucky is having the best year they have had in years. Now, conversely, Louisville is having the worst year they've had in years. They're 2-9. They fired their coach. Lorenzo Ward, interim coach, got the boys fired up. They still gave up 50 points to NC State. It was the 5th time they've given up 50 points. UK, on the other hand, they climb up that mountaintop. They're almost there, and then they have a tough one at Georgia. And then they take that Georgia beat, and then they go down to Tennessee, and they lose to Tennessee. So 17 points, that's what the experts are saying. But I don't know if it's going to be maybe a little bit closer, or does Louisville have any kind of chance? And the Wildcats keep winning. They can go into the Citrus Bowl at least, and that's a January 1 bowl. Mark.
Louisville, the only chance you'd have in this game is if Lamar Jackson came back to finish out his collegiate career, and that ain't going to happen because he just won a game with the Baltimore Ravens. They've lost 8 consecutive games. If you look at Kentucky, it's going to be the same potion. It's going to be stop the run, play great defense, hand the ball to Benny Snell Jr., and hopefully your quarterback Wilson can get something done. Terry Wilson can get something done. But Kentucky has too many good athletes. Louisville is decimated right now. They don't know who their next coach is going to be. Kentucky wins 42-9.
Well, I got to tell you, viewers, I hope you realize how kind and considerate we are in giving you this game to pick, because already you're going to be 1-0. There's no way that Louisville has a chance in this football game. I look for it to be 34-17. Yeah, it's a big rivalry. Kentucky's not a great offensive football team, but Louisville is very, very bad on defense. It is going to be a fun game to watch because they're both going to play hard. But I'll tell you what is good about this game. You can turn it off at halftime because it's going to be over, and then turn to another game that'll be more competitive.
Well, I'm hoping it's a springboard to next season and some new coach, and maybe some people are thinking it's a tryout on video for that new coach. But talk about 2 new coaches. Arizona State, Herm Edwards. Arizona, Kevin Sumlin. They're playing in different stakes for each team. Arizona State is already bowl eligible. They want to go to a better bowl. Arizona, Kevin Sumlin, in his first year, he wants to say, hey, I know you got rid of the last coach and he was 7-6. I'm worth the investment. I'll get us to a bowl game. And they're tipping off at 3:30 in the afternoon out there in Tempe. Mark, what do you think? You live out there. Talk to us about this one.
Well, this is a bitter rivalry, and it has been for a long time in the state of Arizona. If you look at both of these coaches, they've done a decent job. Herm Edwards has done a better job this year because they're definitely locked into a bowl game. And the key to this game, they can knock Arizona out of the bowl situation and guarantee themselves a winning season. For Arizona, they've got to win to get to a bowl game. So I look at this game. If you look at Eno Benjamin, one of the top running backs in the Pac-12 and in the country running the football, had over 100 yards again last week. You look at the quarterback, Manny Wilkins, getting it done. And you look at Arizona's defense last week against Washington State that gave up 7 touchdown passes and a ton of points. I got Arizona State winning this game 34-21.
Well, let's remember this. Arizona State is 1 win and 4 losses on the road. Arizona at home, 5 wins and 1 loss. And I look for Arizona to prevail. I like both quarterbacks. I think Tate's very good for Arizona, and I love what Wilkins has done for Arizona State. It'll be a very, very bitterly contested game, but I look for Arizona to prevail 37-31. It's going to be an excellent game. And they've got to win it in order to be bowl eligible. And I'll tell you, there's greater motivation to try to achieve something than there is to try to keep somebody from achieving success. So I think the motivations with Arizona, they find a way to prevail in the in-state rivalry.
Well, let's see both teams go to a bowl game. But our 8th game is a big Mountain West matchup because you got Utah State, number 23 in the country, playing against number 25 Boise State. Now, Utah State's 10-1, and much like some other teams in the non-Power 5, Utah State keeps winning. They win this game, and then they win the Mountain West. Somebody else trips up, i.e. a UCF trips up. Maybe it's Utah State and Coach Matt Wells who get that non-Power 5 bid to the New Year's Day 6 Bowl. We'll see how that goes, but both teams, we talk about Brett Ripien. Mark, you're high on him from day one. He's thrown 28 touchdowns. He's slinging that thing out. Utah State, Coach, we both agreed today. They got lucky this weekend. Call it what you want. They got lucky. Mark, talk to us about this.
Well, Utah State's won 10 consecutive games after dropping their opener against Sparty. This is a team that has a lot of confidence, but they struggled against Colorado State. They were lucky to win that game last week. They're playing on the blue turf. When you play on the blue turf at Boise, Coach, you know that's tough to do. I'm still going with Brett Ripien. I've been riding that horse all year long. Mark Rippen's nephew, a former teammate of mine. Boise State wins at home in a close one against Utah State, 31-27.
I think it's going to be a great game. Last week, it appeared that Colorado State won the game on a desperation pass, but it turned out the receiver stepped out of bounds, so he ruled it incomplete. And how disappointing was to have Colorado State players celebrating in the end zone thinking they'd won the game only to have disqualified. But the reason that happened is because Utah State knew that game really didn't matter. It was always going to come down with their game against Boise State. Let's give Utah State an awful lot of credit. They're a very solid football team. They whipped BYU, an in-state rivalry, quite decisively. But Boise State has won 6 games in a row, Mark, and there's just something about that team, the way they're playing. I look for Boise State to prevail 35-32. You and I have done games at Boise State. We've done them in that stadium. It's a great area. It's a great environment. It's a great city to go to. If you get a chance to go visit Boise, you will really enjoy it. But Boise State is just impossible to beat at home, particularly with as much riding on this game as there appears to be.
Well, that's a Saturday late night game, but it's also a Saturday primetime game. Is the number 7 LSU Tigers are going to Kyle Field to play Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. Now, 9-2 LSU. You know what? They're not going to go to the college football playoff, but you know what? They can go to a New Year's Day 6 game. Now, Texas A&M, on the other hand, they're 7-4. So I guess the best way you could say it is Jimbo Fisher needs to win this game so that he can get Texas A&M back to the normal 8-4 that they're used to. But they 57th meeting between these two, even though Texas A&M's just recently into the SEC. LSU leads at 33-20, and then there's 3 ties. But you got one good defense in LSU and okay defense at Texas A&M. LSU offense, that's hurting them a lot. A&M, Kellen Mond, we'll see how that's going to go. Mark, talk to us.
Key to this game for A&M is for Kellen Mond to start off this game early and often and throwing the ball vertically down the field. But I don't think that's going to happen against the defensive LSU. Dave Aranda is the highest paid defensive coordinator in the nation for a reason. He can find ways, he can take your strengths and make them weaknesses. And he will in this football game. They'll put them in the box and they'll make Texas A&M one-dimensional. They won't be able to put enough points on the board for LSU. One thing about Joe Burrow, the LSU quarterback, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So you can always count on that. And if you can run the ball with Nick Brissett, what they've been able to do every game, you can control the line of scrimmage. And LSU will control the line of scrimmage and win this game 26-21.
LSU is the most unimpressive football team who's nationally ranked. I mean, offensively, it's like watching paint dry. But when I look at this game, let's see, A&M, they lost to Mississippi State and they lost to Auburn. LSU beat both Mississippi State and Auburn. And then I look at the turnover difference. LSU is one of the best teams as far as protecting the ball and taking it away. A&M is one of the worst teams. They're 115 in protecting the football. And as I said before on this show, that football is so important, they even named a game after it. So because of the turnover, because of comparable schools, I look for LSU to beat Texas A&M 24-21, and A&M will finish up with a record of 6-6, which isn't really what you pay a guy $10 million for to accomplish.
Well, down at Kyle Field, we'll see how they'll react to that. That place may empty out rather quickly, Coach. But our last game in this rivalry week contest is Georgia Tech at Georgia. Now think about this. Georgia already has a date set for December 1st with Alabama in the SEC championship game. Georgia Tech, they're having a pretty good year. They're 7-4. Paul Johnson runs that triple option. They throw the ball about 2 times a game. I think they throw it on the field to start the game. They throw it off the field when it's over. Their defense is pretty good. They're only giving up about 130 yards rushing a game, but they run the ball for 300 plus. Georgia, we talk about Jake Fromm. You've got DeAndre Swift. He's back and healthy. Elijah Holyfield, he's healthy. But can their defense get Georgia Tech off the field? Because as we know, we saw with Army in Oklahoma, but we've seen with Georgia Tech and everybody, keep the other team's offense off the field, but turn red zone possessions into points. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I think Georgia wins this game handily because of DeAndre Swift and Elijah Holyfield to be able to run the ball. The one thing that Georgia offense can do is they can throw the ball with Jake Fromm. Georgia Tech cannot throw the football. Georgia and Georgia Tech meet every year. This is a game that's about recruiting. It's a big rivalry in the state. And if you look at Georgia, Georgia's basically owned this rivalry. And I think Georgia will win this game handily 41-17 because of their quarterback play and Jake Fromm.
But let's remember this, Mark. Georgia Tech has won 4 straight games ever since they went with the redshirt quarterback. He can run the football. He's very, very impressive. They do protect the football. Georgia's offense, you talk about the running back, Jake Fromm, when they're on the bench, they don't do an awful lot of damage to you. I think it's going to be much closer than you think. I think the fact is that Georgia, hopefully Georgia's not looking forward to Alabama. Georgia prevails in this game 42-27. But what I'd really worry about if I'm Georgia is the amount of injuries your defensive linemen may lose playing against that wishbone offense because they block so low and they come at you from different angles. But it will be a fun game to watch. And I promise you, Georgia will Georgia Tech will move the ball on Georgia with a great deal of consistency.
Well, gentlemen, we got exciting games, and there's 10 of them, and there's one big contest. One first prize is the best we've had yet. So log on to thecrowdside.com, but go to the app and get on the contest, sign up, and let me see what you're predicting against Mark and Coach. But we have some people that did some predicting last week in Week 12, and we've got winners. So, Coach, if you could, I'm going to ask you first. Talk about your top 3 college football show winners from Week 12.
I am so happy for Felicia Mansfield. She wins a $50 Amazon gift card. Very well done. Number 2 is Madness. 18 Madness, $75 Amazon gift card. And, of course, number 1 goes to Joe McConnell. He receives a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations.
My top 3, number 3 is Mick Fushi, a $50 Amazon gift card. Number 2 is Neil Jones, a $75 Amazon gift card. And number 1, Dave Shetter, a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to all.
Hey, way to go. Keep competing, because you can't win if you don't compete. But I'll tell you who is competing. These are some attaboys. Now, Mark, I'm going to start with you. Who are your attaboys for Week 12?
Well, this one very quietly. Jonathan Taylor, the Wisconsin running back, rushed for a career-high 321 yards and 3 touchdowns, a 17-yard touchdown win in triple overtime over Purdue, 47-44. My next one is Taylor Cornelius, the Oklahoma State quarterback. He had over 380 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, but he did throw 2 picks. But here's the key. He rushed for 106 yards and a touchdown in their win over number 9 West Virginia. It makes them bowl eligible, and he threw the winning touchdown pass with 47 seconds left to go. Congratulations, Taylor.
2 great selections, Mark. But I'm going to give an attaboy to a gentleman who played on the losing football team. Anthony McFarland, the running back from Maryland. 298 yards rushing on only 14 carries. He had a 14.2 average and 2 TDs. Tremendous job by that young man. The other one I have to give it to Gardner Minshew. That's a quarterback from Washington State. He had such a great performance, as you mentioned, counted for 7 touchdowns in the lopsided win against Arizona. So there's so many other great ones that we could acknowledge, but I'm happy to announce those 2 are my attaboy winners.
Well, Coach, I've never had one, but if I did, my attaboy would go to Coach Andy Fry and the Center College Praying Colonels as they won their first-round playoff game against Washington Jefferson 54-13, predicted by Coach Holtz.
Hey, Kevin,
but their next game.
Not so fast. They got Mount Union next week, and Mount Union, last time they lost,
well,
I think George Washington was a young boy.
Well, Coach, like I said, enjoy the moment. Congrats to those people down there in Danville, Kentucky, and Coach Fry at Center College. Now, gentlemen, we got a big weekend. We got turkey, we got football, we got more turkey, and we got more football every day. So, I want to ask, what are you thankful for? I know people ask that all the time, but what are you looking forward to this weekend? Mark, talk to us.
I'm thankful for my daughters and my family and my friends. I'm thankful that we live in a country, the United States of America, where we can enjoy our true freedoms. And I want to thank our first responders, our people in blue. And I want to thank all of our military people out there and their family and wish them all a happy Thanksgiving. And thank you for our freedoms.
I can't say it any better than that, Mark. That was very, very well done. And to me, Thanksgiving is about being thankful for living in this country, for all the great freedoms we have, but also for the great opportunities we have. The one thing I do know, we're always going to have problems. We're always going to have difficult obstacles. I'm so old now, my birthday candles cost more than a cake, and I can assure you, no matter how old you live, you're going to have problems, you're going to have difficulty. The important thing is the attitude and how you approach it. So let's be fortunate and look at our blessings instead of counting the problems that we have. Have a happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Well, gentlemen, I wish a happy Thanksgiving to you. And like all of you, I'm thankful that I get to live in this country. I think we all need to give a shout out to those deployed standing a post overseas so we can enjoy this. We can enjoy some college football, and we can enjoy family and being around each other. And like you said, Coach, agree to disagree, but do it with your smile on your face. And you know what? If you get that opportunity. So, gentlemen, have a great Thanksgiving to our crew and our staff on thecrowdsline.com. It's been wonderful. Screen Eye Production, happy Thanksgiving to you. Fusion Studios, the guys in Mesa, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And enjoy some college football. God bless.
From the 30, Johnson out of the shotgun. Dropping back, pressure on, throwing over the middle. Has Williams. 10, 5, touchdown!